The protagonist mentioned that in the future, it wasn't known when, but thick layers of clouds slowly shrouded the sky, everyone called in the cloud sea. As time passed, the blue sky was gradually forgotten by the people. No longer did anyone know exactly what was above the cloud sea, and no one knew where the cloud sea came from. Aside from one person he knows, he mentioned that above the cloud sea is an azure sky, the sun, moon, and stars, along with a beautiful floating city. One woman stated that the pitiful child still believes the story made up by his father. One man mentioned that Neil is preaching again. The boy was hit by a can and responded that his dad had personally seen the surface with his own eyes. He asked the old guy while teasing him about who told his roof to be in the middle of the village. He jumped from the roof, and the village chief shouted at him and asked him how many times he had warned him and ordered him not to spread bullshit on his roof. He jumped from the roof and ran towards a food stall. Neil asked him if he was open for business yet. He took the bread, and the manager mentioned that Kiki House's bread is always the best. The chief mentioned that if it's not for his father who liked to lie, the woman stated that the child was always so energetic. He ran and said that he believed that his dad would never lie and that one day he would show them proof. In the northeast corner of the village was Neil's house. He was working on some machine, and he removed his goggles and told him it's finally done. He made the aerial plane No. 96. Suddenly, there was a crash in his house, and it was a metal ball. He wondered why such a weird thing would fall from the sky, kicked the ball, and asked it to give him back his No. 96. The metal ball opened, and there was a girl inside. He poked the girl to find out if she was alive, and he said that she was wearing strange clothes. She called him a pervert and gave him a death punch. He apologized and said he was wrong. He shouldn't have lifted her skirt. She responded that this is not all his fault, who told her to be so attractive, so she will forgive him for the time being. He was angry and mentioned that she was the one who fell into his house first. He said, smashing the aerial plane that he worked so hard to make, and asked how she was going to compensate him. She kissed his forehead and told him that this should be enough to make up for it. She opened the almirah and asked him not to betray her. He asked her what she was doing, and she shut the almirah. He stated that it's not even Doraemon and wondered why she went in the closet. There were some people who opened the gate, and Neil wondered who those guys were. One of the guys leaned over, asked him why he added the word, and asked if someone else came through. He replied that he was alone, and the girl realized he was a complete idiot. They looked at the roof and then at the metal ball. They asked him what that was. He replied that this is his sofa, and they said it was complete bullshit and started searching. Neil tried to stop them and told them that this is his home and asked them not to do anything. The guy replied that he was an eyesore. They used the attack on Neil, and she was scared. The other guys told the boss that there seems to be movement in the closet. He opened the closet and found the girl. She ordered the swift wind Wendy to come out. She said the escape was successful. They said they were insignificant tricks. The guy stated that even though they both have wind-typing metal, his hurricane is far stronger than her swift wind. He told her that if she was smart, hurry up and give him the K-bomb. She said, dream on, and the guy said that it looks like she wants it the hard way. The guy was about to kill her when Neil stopped him and told him not to do anything and asked if he did not understand what he said. Neil stopped the punch, and the girl was happy about it. But another guy punched him, and the boss wondered why there was a burning sensation on his wrist. She was trying to escape, and the boss asked him to stop right there. Neil shouted that he had risked his life to save her. She replied that is why she has to escape successfully, and asked how she can let him sacrifice himself in vain. The boss called Dash, and Dash punched the ground. There was a crack in the ground, and she was stopped by a big stone. She fell down, and Neil wondered why a boulder suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The boss mentioned that she would never escape out of this room, and he explained that the A-metal dash control is a rock-strengthening type. The girl said that dream on, her knight will definitely protect her. Neil wondered when she got behind her. The boss stated that he didn't have time to play around with them any longer and asked them to watch as he sliced them both. He attacked them, but he protected her. All of them were surprised. Neil deflected the attack, and they realized he had a medal. He wondered about a mere commoner beneath the clouds and thought how. He threw a bomb, and they all wondered what happened. One of them said it's a smoke bomb, and they couldn't see anything. He took her in his arms, and they were riding the board. He mentioned that the jet board he invented is finally put to good use. They broke his window and ran away. The boss told them that they allowed them to go away. The boss called Envy, and the guy started following him. The girl said she didn't know he actually had it in him. He responded that his inventions are absolute. She told him it's smoking and asked him to stop. He replied that he can't stop. She said they were trash inventions, and he responded that it was because she was too heavy. She asked him what he said, and he asked what it was all about earlier. The girl responded that it's safer because he didn't know too much, and asked him to just go home. He asked if he didn't just escape from there. She replied that since things have come to this point, there is nothing much to hide, and she stated that she probably won't believe him, but she used to live above this cloud sea. It was an hour ago, a city above the clouds, Genia. There was a certain abandoned factory northwest of the city. The boss was attacking the city and stated not to leave any survivors. A girl grabbed Phoebe's hand and asked her to follow her. The girl told Phoebe that even though their secret base had been discovered by the government's army, the sparks of revolution won't stop burning. From now on, she will give her the K-bomb for safekeeping. The girl heard some noise, and Phoebe asked Anna what she meant, and she can't do it alone. Anna kicked Phoebe and apologized to her. She put her in the capsule and saw there were army personnel entering the base. She clicked the button, and Anna said that the fate of the entire world was in her hands. She has to safely bring the K-bomb to the North Pole and destroy the Cloud Sea generator. She told him that it's fine if he doesn't believe her, and in any case, to them people beneath the clouds, this does sound a bit far-fetched. He said it was so cool, and his dad really was not lying. There really is another world above the cloud, and Phoebe hit his head and responded that it is not important. What's important is destroying the Cloud Sea generator. He asked about the Cloud Sea generator, and she responded that he can't be that naive to think that the Cloud Sea was formed naturally. She told him that is not surprising. A large majority of Genians also believe that, but in fact, the Cloud Sea was made so that the ruler of Genia could enjoy monopolizing the manufacture of solar energy. She explained that whether it's direct or indirect, she must know that most of the energy used above the earth comes from the sun. The Cloud Sea absorbs solar energy at maximum efficiency and exclusively supplies it to Genia City alone, making the resources of these guys living below the clouds grow scarce, making their lives more miserable with each passing day. She mentioned that in order to let the entire world bathe in warm sunshine, she has to go to the North Pole and blow up the Cloud Sea generator with the K-bomb. Neil was completely confused, and she saw it was a pursuer. Neil wondered how he caught up to his jetboard so fast and realized this guy's speed was not simple. Phoebe wished him good luck and asked him to go get him. Neil asked her why she hid so far away. She asked him to be careful, and Envy disappeared. Neil was stabbed in the stomach, and Envy stated that he was only worth this much. Envy mentioned that his blocking boss's attack earlier was a complete coincidence. Envy pointed his sword toward Phoebe, and he told her not to fret, and it would be her turn soon. Neil grabbed his cape and invited him, realizing he was still alive. Envy realized that he avoided a vital hit from his attack in that instant and said those were nice reflexes. He saw the bracelet and asked if that was his A medal. Envy realized he did not really know how to use it. He was about to attack Neil again and said he would show him how to use it. Phoebe used her wind barrier and stopped the Envy attack. Envy thought it was like he was being sucked in by something and can't pull out. Phoebe told him that the protection of the wind force won't last long, and on her count of 3, he will use her A medal to attack him. Neil asked her to wait and asked what an A medal was. The barrier broke and she said she got distracted. Envy said it was a chance, and she realized both his hands have A medals. He stopped his attack, and Neil was surprised why his left hand changed into this. He thought maybe, and she replied it's that maybe. She explained that a medal is an active medal that can resonate with a user and grant them a special ability. Neil said that even though he didn't really get it, it would let him beat this guy, and as he touched his metal hand, his other hand was burnt. She asked if he was an idiot, and Envy responded that it seemed like he was still not aware of his situation. His twin metals are of the strengthening type. When these blades are connected to his hands, his speed exceeds that of ordinary people. Envy wondered how he could lose to a newbie like him. Envy said he would let him taste his true color. He disappeared again, and Neil heard his footsteps. He attacked him and sliced him. Neil stood up again and mentioned that he can't see his movements at all. Neil looked around and realized that if he looked carefully, that when he was about to attack, the footprints he left were within 3 meters of him. He said he would take a gamble. Envy stated that he is quite a difficult brat, and this is the difference between their strengths, and he asked him to accept his fate. He disappeared and said this time he would give him a fatal strike right now. Neil punched the road, and Phoebe realized he was using the ground to transfer the heat. A volcano was erupting. Envy was unconscious, and Neil said he didn't expect that this thing was this powerful. His hand changed, and he wondered why it changed back into a bracelet. Phoebe smirked and said she could use this guy. Neil asked why he was feeling suddenly tired, and she responded that it was the effect of using A metals. She stated that resonating with A metals causes a great deal of mental strain. Once the user becomes mentally drained, the resonance will stop. He said it was all lies, and his mental strength is the world's best. She asked him to stand up and then say those words. Phoebe explained that 10 years ago, a person named Dr. extracted metal which contained life force from a rare one, and everyone called it the A active metal. Those who possess A metal can immediately activate it upon mentally resonating with them and harmonizing with the evolved living metal weapon. The evolved weapon's form and ability are all different. She explained that aside from a few rare varieties, A metals can more or less be divided into two types, strengthening types and wave types. She said strengthening types can strengthen a user's ability, like that guy earlier and that fatty from before. Wave types give their holders special kinds of attributes based on the internal vibrations of the metal, like that one-eyed guy. She said if she is not mistaken, her bracelet is also a wave type. She said only genians above the clouds know how to use A metals. He explained that this is a remnant of his father. She apologized, and he explained that it's nothing. Knowing more about things related to his dad makes him really happy. He asked her to tell him more about things above the cloud sea. She said it was no rush, and they could take their time talking on the road. He thought about the road and wondered where they were going. She replied to the North Pole and asked if they didn't agree to go together. He said when he said that. Neil refused and told her that there was a reason why he had to stay in the village, and he was not going to the North Pole with her. She told him that she even gave him her first kiss. Neil asked if that could even be considered a first kiss. He turned around and said he was going back. She asked if there was a river nearby as she was sweating all over, and she wanted to take a bath. He returned quickly and said he was actually not in a hurry to go back. They reached the waterfall, and she took a bath. She asked him not to peep, and when he tried to, she threw a stone at him. She said that she knew that he was not being honest. She asked him why he had to stay in that village. He replied that he was waiting for his dad to come back. She asked him if he was obviously alive, then what was with that remnant of a bracelet? He asked if living people can't have remnants, and she denied it. He saw her, and she gave him a death punch. He called her a violent woman, and she replied, sick pervert. He said that it's getting late, so he should return. Phoebe asked if he was running away after seeing everything. He saw that there was a large fire in the village. Phoebe said it must be them. He called them bastards and ran towards the village. She asked him where he was going, and he responded that he was back to put out the fire. She stated that they were doing this to lure him back and asked him not to fall in her trap. He replied that's exactly why he needs to return even more. He fell off the cliff, and she called him an idiot. She told him that she was not going to throw her life away with her. The boss burnt the village down and asked the chief of the village to tell him where that brat ran off to. The chief replied that even if he knew where, he wouldn't tell him. Neil jumped and shouted he was over there. He kicked the other guy, and the chief was happy to see Neil. He punched him and asked him to die. The boss called him a mere commoner beneath the clouds. Neil asked the village chief to go gather everyone to put out the fire, and asked him to leave this place to him. Neil challenged him that if they had guts, and asked him to come at him and not to bully the weak. Neil said resonate with him, a metal bracelet. There was no fire, and he thought about what happened. It was obviously nothing. The boss called him to not be naive and asked if he thinks it's that easy to resonate with A metals. The boss explained that the lady practiced for several years before they could finally control at will, and he used it to attack Neil. The boss asked him where the girl was who was with him. Neil smiled, and Phoebe replied that she is right here. She told him to let Neil go, and she later realized they had come out on impulse. She said it really is not worth throwing her life away for this idiot. The guy caught her, and the boss said this brat is already of no use. He tossed him in the fire, and she cried for Neil. The boss told her that if fate has time to cry for others, she would best worry about herself more. He asked her to give him the K-bomb, and she responded that she was not giving it to you even if Sheddies. The boss said he would assist her. Neil asked him to stop, and came out of the fire. She smiled, and he said that because of them, he finally understood his A metals ability. The boss was shocked as to how this was possible. He clearly went into flames. Neil asked if he didn't know the Undine bird was able to rise once again from ashes. Neil came out of the fire, and Feed kicked the other guy between his legs and asked him to stay away. She ran towards Neil, and Neil mentioned that he still can't completely control these flames. He asked her to go hide further away and watch him handle these two. The boss smiled and said he just learned how to play with fire and now doesn't know the difference between heaven and earth. He asked Dash, and he cracked the earth and used Hell's demonic claw. He was shocked to see the stone, and they were completely above his head. The boss asked him if he got buried. He stated that his flames are unable to penetrate through stone. He destroyed the stones, and the boss realized that he actually turned the stone into lava. Neil mentioned that as long as the temperature of the flame is high enough, there is nothing that can't be melted. The boss was surprised as in such a short amount of time, this brat can actually achieve Sova level. The other guys mentioned that it's the flame, and his A-metal is steadily absorbing energy from the surrounding flames. He absorbed all the flames, and he said that the flames in the entire village are all being sucked in. He said evolution mode engaged and used Fire Phoenix Sorcerer. Dash tried to stop the fire using his stone and asked the boss to get out of the way as he can't hold it much longer. There was a complete trench formed where his attack went from. Dash was defeated, and the boss mentioned that this kid absorbed so many flames that Dash's special ability can't even do anything against him, and continuing this battle will not be in his favor. The boss used his attack, and Neil realized he escaped. His hand returned to normal, and Phoebe hugged Neil. The shops were burnt down, and he saw bread. The owner said that this bread is a little burnt. Neil apologized and said it was all because of him, and everything is gone, and all burned up. The owner smiled and said that if the bread is burnt, he can just bake another one. If their house is burned down, they can be rebuilt. As long as everyone is alive, they have hope. He saw that there was a village chief and everyone. They all said that they should rebuild the village. Phoebe turned around and tried to walk away. Neil asked if the main culprit wants to run away now. Phoebe responded that she also wants to stay and help, but she is just a weak little girl. Neil asked if she didn't remember saying that they were going to the North Pole together. She was confused, and Neil replied that he can't stay with everyone to rebuild the village, and apologized. Chief replied that they are going to be more of a hindrance than help anyway. He waved at the villagers, and the chief mentioned that he always knew this day would come, and this child is the same as his father. The bakery owner said that the village will be quiet yet again. Phoebe asked if he didn't say that he had to stay and wait for his father, and asked why he suddenly. He responded that if he stayed behind now, he would bring more danger to everyone. He mentioned that he has already waited 8 years for him, and rather than continue waiting, he should go find him himself. Neil stated that he was too hasty in leaving. He forgot to bring luggage and lunch too. He even forgot to change his tattered clothes. It was 2 days later, and Neil asked Phoebe how it was. His lightspeed flying machine was not bad. A girl passed them, and Phoebe asked him to light his head and told him that he had been passed by a random little girl. He said that he won't lose when it comes to speed, and he will let her see his lightspeed flying machine's true strength. He asked her to sit tight. She told him that up ahead was a cliff. They jumped the cliff, and the girl was amazed. Their bike was destroyed, and Neil said that at least it did fly, but Phoebe responded that he is so broad-minded. A scythe came from behind and cut the tree behind them in half. Neil saved her and wondered why the huge tree fell suddenly. There was a large monster behind them. It was the city above the clouds, Genia. A guy was reporting to Lord Oscar, and Lord Oscar asked him not to make such a huge fuss. He already knew about it. A kid approached him and said that he knew from the start that Oscar the Trash wasn't capable, and he can't even handle a little brat beneath the clouds. The report person realized it was a Lord Van, and Van asked Oscar to leave it to him. Oscar stated that it is time for him to experience the outside world below. It was 1 hour later in the small mining town, Adelaide. The girl who passed them was Ada, and she mentioned that she was back. Phoebe said it was so empty, and an old man said that this is normal. Phoebe asked normally, and he asked about giant insects. The man said that these guys are foreigners, so they don't really know this, but in fact, this town used to be a famous industrial mining spot, and because it produced tons of rare ores, it was really popular for a while, and it used to be called a miner's paradise. Until that accident 8 years ago where everything changed. Phoebe asked about the accident, and the man replied that it is more appropriate to call it a catastrophe. He explained that 8 years ago, as a result of accidentally mining out some kind of radioactive ore, there was a nuclear leakage. Amongst the majority of miners who died were Ada's parents, and at that time she had just been born. He further mentioned that since no one had ever found a way to block this leakage, it was unminable for many years, and due to the radiation various types of giant insects have also appeared. They were scared after hearing radiation, and she assured them not to worry, and it's been a long time, so it's all right. He said that everyone was forced to leave this town due to their livelihoods, and she wondered why this place was so cold and quiet. Now, aside from a few of them old ones who are unwilling to move out, in Ada, the only source of manpower they have is Mr. Eduardo. A guy came out and told the mayor that he was here to deliver his rice. The mayor realized it was him, and he thanked him for taking the trouble to do this. Eduardo mentioned it's nothing much, and saw Neil and Phoebe. He asked about those two, and the mayor responded that they are travelers passing by and plan to leave after staying the night. Eduardo told the travelers for their own safety and advised them to not approach the sealed mine. Eduardo mentioned that he got Ada a special present. She was happy about the present, and he gave her a necklace. He explained that it is called Angel's Tears. She was happy about the Angel's Tears. He stated that sapphires can give protection against evil and harm, and even bring good luck. He asked her to put it on. Phoebe wondered that such a large sapphire is priceless, and how it can appear in such a remote and desolate place. Phoebe said that she feels that Eduardo is very suspicious. Neil drank his tea and stated that his eyes are only a little fierce-looking. He asked Phoebe to go and look at how great a relationship he has with Ada, and wondered how he can be a bad guy. It was late at night, and Phoebe looked at the sky and wondered how Anna was doing right now. She looked outside the window and saw Eduardo and why he was going to the mines this late. She said there really is something up with him. She came to Neil's room and asked him to wake up. Neil asked if it was time for breakfast, and she denied. He slept and told her to wake him up again when it's time for breakfast. She gave him a death punch, and she followed Eduardo. Eduardo turned around, and she hid herself. She questioned why he came to this side of the mine. He kept the light on the rock and slid the rock. She realized there is actually a secret entrance behind the rock. She followed him inside the mine, and he was mining. She figured that he was just mining by himself here late at night. The mayor was behind her. The mayor threw her, and she was confused. He told her that if she wanted something to blame herself for being too suspicious. His finger was pointy, and she realized it was an A metal. Eduardo asked the mayor to stop and mention that they are only travelers passing by, and requested him to not kill any more innocents. Mayor looked at him as he said not to kill innocents and said that sure sounds nice. Mayor asked him if he had forgotten who caused the mining disaster 8 years ago and who it was that killed 41 innocent miners. It was 8 years ago, and Eduardo came to the mayor's house. A guy had killed the mayor and told Eduardo that he had just come in time, and mentioned that he was the one who was too stupid to agree to work with him, so he ended up in this state. The guy asked Eduardo if he was a bit smarter than him. He stated that he came from a world above him, which he would never be able to comprehend, and he only wanted to obtain these kinds of metals in this mining town. He explained that this is not born naturally in their common sapphire vein. He said that he originally thought of just killing everyone in this town and taking these away. The mayor said that he will let him live, and Eduardo realized that he actually transformed into the mayor. The guy mentioned that if not, it won't be only him. The entire town of Adelaide will disappear from the face of this earth. The following months after, Eduardo always went into the mines late at night and helped the mayor harvest A metals. Until one day, Eduardo asked if they went in and asked the drum person in the bar if today was not a rest day. The drum person replied that the quality of this month's sapphires weren't that great. He said that they can't go down there today, no matter what, and asked him to stop them. The guy said they had already left, and should already be there when they heard the blast. The mayor pointed towards Eduardo and mentioned that it was precisely the explosives he set up in the mines that led to the mining disaster. Eduardo responded regarding the explosives he placed shouldn't have been enough, and the mayor said that's his mistake. He dropped the light, and the mayor told him that he is the one who killed those 41 miners, and he was the one who caused this town to become like this. Eduardo was on his knees and asked him to stop. Phoebe looked at him and called him a coward and told him that he is too scared to confront his weakness. She asked him if he was thinking of running away forever. She mentioned that he should have gone to get a weapon to resist him from the very start and not accept his offer to throw away his life for him. He replied that if he did that, the entire town of Adelaide would be gone, and she said they were excuses. Phoebe told him that weaklings are always looking for all kinds of excuses to make. Phoebe mentioned that the only thing he is worried about is his own safety, and deep in his heart, this town is not as important as he says it is. She asked him to stop lying to himself. The mayor asked them if they were finished yet. He asked them to not waste his time with these useless things. He ordered Eduardo to kill her tight now. Eduardo said that he has had enough, and he doesn't want to kill anyone anymore. The mayor asked if he dared to disobey him. He asked if he was not afraid of her cute Ada, knowing that he killed her parents' true murderer. He requested him to not do this, and he used his A metal and attacked him in the gut. The mayor mentioned that he was the one who told them to go down there that day. Eduardo was dead, and he asked Fugi how she knew about A metals. Phoebe responded that she is also from the city above the clouds. She used her A metal and tried to punch him, but he stopped her attack. He said that if that's the case, then all the more reason for her to not leave here alive. Someone threw a bug stone at the mayor, and they turned around and saw it was Ava. Neil was sleeping, and the boss came to his room. He was about to kill Neil with the knife, but he was stopped by an ice attack. He saw that it was Lord Van on the window. Van mentioned that he actually has to use such a despicable method to handle a mere commoner beneath the cloud. He has caused the Genians to lose all their faces. He asked Lord Van, and Van asked him to say no more. Van told him that he will handle this from now on and ordered him to go back up the clouds. He tried to stay, and Van asked him if he was disobeying his order. The boss was scared and ran away. Van looked at Neil and mentioned that no matter how he looked at him, this guy doesn't seem like he could defeat the two warriors above the sky. Neil hugged Van in his sleep and said he was finally back and addressed Van as his dad. Van punched Neil and asked him who the hell he was calling dad. They came out of the mayor's house, and Neil looked at him and asked if he was the one who hit him. One responded that not only he hit him, but he was also going to kill him. Van used his A metal and attacked Neil. Neil used his A metal, and they were against each other. Neil asked who the hell he was, and Van responded that a dead man doesn't need to know that much. Ada was in the mine, and Eduardo apologized to her. She told him that he was hurt and asked him not to talk much. The mayor turned back to his original form and called her a bastard. He said he is going to kill her. She tried to save her, and the guy's hand went straight through his heart. Ada was angry, and she punched him. She called his Uncle Eddie, and he asked her to forgive him. He said that he still managed to save her in the end, and that was great. She was crying, and a tear fell on the necklace. He stated that he has seen the tear of a true angel. The guy mentioned that he has truly angered him and looked at Ada. He told her that he will let her experience the true terror of his A metal. He used the ultimate mode and had the Nibelung armor. It was the Nibelung armor, and Phoebe wondered if it could be the legendary Dragon Slayer. He agreed and explained that within Northern Europe's Song of the Nibelungs, Prince Siegfried bathed in dragon blood and obtained an invulnerable body, and his A metal is able to freely change its molecular composition. By altering its molecular density, it can become an impervious super armor, and that is Nibelung armor. Phoebe said to her knowledge, Siegfried still died from people learning about his weak point, and there is no such thing as an absolute armor. The guy mentioned that the only thing she can do with her A metal that possesses no fighting strength is flaunt it around. Phoebe realized he can't count on Ada right now, and she can only bet on this. She used the wind god's sigh and attacked him. The guy mentioned that the speed of her attack is surely surprising, and it was too bad it didn't hit her target at all. Phoebe said that she thinks he should say that it's a bullseye. The wood broke and the stones dropped on the guy. She stated that the mine's wooden beams have long been weakened, and he was so self-confident in his own abilities that he neglected to observe his surroundings and called him an idiot. He came out of the rubble, and his claw was on her neck. He mentioned that her clever act is coming to an end. Ada held his hand and snapped it, and Phoebe was on the ground. The guy was crying and wondered how this could be possible, and his super armor was actually broken. Phoebe told him that his armor is still perfect, and it still has not been damaged, and it's just that the flesh below the armor is not able to bear the heavy weight and distortion. She mentioned that the toughest armor is only superficial, and one's own strength is what's truly unparalleled. Van attacked Neil and asked him to go and die. He used his magic unicorn attack, and although he dodged the attack, the entire tree was instantly frozen into an ice sculpture. He thought if he got hit, and Van asked him where he was looking at. Neil stopped his attack, but was thrown far away. He made a sword of ice, and Neil was amazed that he can even take an ice sword out of his hand. Van used the ice shard of the 9 heavens and attacked Neil. Van stopped, and Neil thought that he obviously could kill him and wondered why he stopped. An egg broke, and there was an animal inside the egg, and the animal jumped on Van's face. Van asked it to stop licking and mentioned that it itches. He said to just call it Chi-Chi. Neil asked who told it to look so weird. Van looked at him, and Neil told him to not just put on that scowling face again to act fierce. He stated that someone who likes small animals is definitely not a bad guy. He tried to call Chi-Chi, but Chi-Chi bit his finger. Neil said that they should be friends. Van replied that he doesn't need something like friends. Van mentioned that the truly strong do not need friends and further stated that he is not in the mood anymore and asked him to thank him for good fortune. Neil told him that he is wrong and stated that someone who is always alone will never be strong. Only when he is fighting beside friends will he be at his strongest. Van smiled and said that he still didn't need friends. They saw a blast and Neil mentioned that something is flying this way. They saw it was the guy with the dragon armor. Phoebe told Ada that she said to not use much power to hit him. She asked what if the mines cave in and some of the stones fell down. Phoebe said that it's seriously caving in. They started running towards the exit and Ada's leg got stuck in a stone and she fell. Phoebe looked at her and tried to save her. She saved her from one of the stones, but another one fell, and she mentioned that she can't dodge in time. Neil reached there on time and stopped the rock. He saw that the entrance was collapsing, but Van used his A-metal and the entire cave was frozen. Phoebe was impressed by Van and thought he was so handsome. Neil cried as he froze too. They came out of the cave and Phoebe thanked Van for earlier. Van responded that he only wanted to say Chi-Chi and told her to not misunderstand. Neil said that he was not straightforward at all and asked what it killed to be honest. Van was walking away and Ada told him that she will see him later and called him Big Brother. Van stated that it's best if they don't see him again because the next time they meet will be the last time any of them see the light of the day. They buried Eduardo and she hung her necklace on his grave and they prayed for him to rest in peace. The guy was walking away and realized that he was actually beaten to this state by a bunch of kids. A guy came and mentioned it was not beautiful at all. The guy realized it was Mr. D. He mentioned that the guy was of no use to him anymore, and the guy asked him to wait. But Mr. D said that he will give him a gorgeous death. He used the Red Lotus fantasy attack, and he was burned to ashes. It was the next day, and the villagers waved at Phoebe and Neil as they were going. He mentioned that the time to leave had finally come. Neil mentioned it was so boring. Phoebe replied what's there to complain about whenever is traveling with such a beautiful lady like her. Neil responded that it's really boring, and they have been walking for 3 days. Phoebe replied that they have only walked for 3 hours. A bear attacked them and they cried for help. Phoebe looked at the bear and wondered why those pigtails looked familiar. Ada punched the bear and greeted them. They were surprised and realized that Ada encountered a bear when she was chasing after them, defeated the bear and rode it to chase after them. Phoebe stated that must have been what happened. Neil asked her who she was giving an explanation to. She asked Ada if she specially came chasing after them because of something important. Ada responded that she wants to see the outside world. Neil responded that they are not going out to play, and she banged his head. Phoebe mentioned that in crucial moments, Ada would be more reliable than a certain someone, and Neil asked what she meant by that. They heard someone singing, and he said from fairest creatures their desire increases. It was Mr. D, and he said that thereby beauty's rose might never die. He bowed and greeted them good afternoon. He crossed Phoebe and they shared a look. D mentioned that as the riper should by time deceased his tender hair might bear his memory. Phoebe wondered what that sudden chill was that she just felt. Mile asked Phoebe what she was standing there for and asked her to ignore that weirdo. She said she was coming. D turned around and smiled and stated that a budding flower truly makes one anticipate. He mentioned that he can't help but feel overwhelmed thinking about the day it blossoms. It was the heavenly lake and Van was standing there on top of the ice. A girl was inside the ice and he said that the people below the clouds are not as uncivilized as she said they were and called her mother. He remembered how Neil offered to be friends. There was a bird in little Van's hand and he asked his mother if he could be friends with it. His mother said of course he can. Suddenly the bird froze and she grabbed his shoulder. She explained to him that he has a huge amount of power hidden within his body and must use the A-metal bracelet on his right hand to release it. Once he learns how to control his power, he will no longer harm those around him. A big eagle appeared and Van said that it was the mama eagle. She attacked Van, but his mother protected him. The eagle tried to attack him again, but Van was angry and he froze the eagle. His father saw that and smiled. Van hugged his frozen mother and a voice came from behind that mentioned the legendary arrogant ice prince is only a kid with a mother complex. It was a man and he asked him to give him his A-metal. He looked at Van and asked him to give his A-metal. He introduced himself and said his code name is A. Van, can call him Mr. A. Van, told him that he is not interested in his identity. He mentioned that this is not a place he should come to if he is smart and told him to scram. It told him that he will scram after he takes his A-metal. Van called him an ignorant fool and said he didn't want to be dirtied by his blood. He said that he is quite confident, and Van responded that the entire atmosphere is filled with water vapors. He mentioned that no one can defeat him here, and he smiled. A request to excuse his rudeness, he should reveal his strength first. She used her power and a crack appeared on his mother's ice. He told him that if need be, he can shatter this entire island of ice. Van was angry and said that he was going to kill him. He used his power and used his ice age attack. I used his powers and cracked the ice attack. There was a huge sandstorm, and Phoebe mentioned that she really missed the slow pace of the forest. Neil asked who said that they hated it because of too many mosquitoes. Neil said that there seems to be a town up ahead, and Phoebe stated that Ada's getting blown away. They reached the town and said there was not a soul in sight. Ada said she was hungry, and Phoebe explained that because of the buildings the wind is a bit weaker here. Phoebe's skirt flew up because of the wind, and Neil saw her. Phoebe called him a pervert, and Neil told her that it obviously flew up on its own. Phoebe asked him who told him to look this way, and Neil replied that it's not like he did it on purpose. Ada saw a hot bun and tried to reach for it, but there was a giant man in front of her. They wondered where Ada was, and Phoebe said she was just here a moment ago. Neil stepped on something, and he vanished. Phoebe realized even Neil had gone. A guy came out of nowhere and kidnapped Phoebe. People started looking for Phoebe and wondered how that girl suddenly disappeared. Other guys said she shouldn't have run far and asked him to look for her somewhere else. It was 40 meters below the ground. Phoebe realized it was human trafficking, and the guy removed his mask and told her that they should have taken her companions. He told her that he is Zen and he has always lived in the outskirts of this underground city. She asked the underground city and wondered what was going on. Zen told her that's a long story and told her that this city was originally above ground and had always relied on the vast forest in the north to resist the onslaught of sandstorms and was prosperous for a small period of time. He further stated that due to people's selfish desire to unceasingly cut the forest for more land, and the originally flourishing forest gradually dwindled to nothing less. The sandstorm that came from the north quickly swallowed the entire city. In order to survive, everyone had no choice but to move underground, and this kind of underground slowly formed. Phoebe asked what he meant by human trafficking earlier. Zen explained that long years of living without daylight slowly warped everyone's heart. He explained that in this city, young girls are treated as merchandise and transactions, and in order to satisfy the perverted rich and powerful strange hobbies, some people go above ground at regular intervals to hunt for passing travelers. Once they catch a young and beautiful girl, she would then be sent to be sold at the underground auction in the heart of the city. She asked if there was actually such a thing, and asked what happened to the girl that was sold. He responded that most of them are tormented with death. Neil at this time wondered where the hell he was. Ada was eating the buns and mentioned that she still wants more. A guy mentioned that this girl has already eaten 8 trays of bread. The other guy mentioned that she is big and strong, and he has really brought in some high-quality goods this time, and asked how he got her. The guy was beaten up and replied that it's hard to explain in a few words. While she was eating, the last bread was taken away, and the girl who took the break stated that she is going to be auctioned off tonight. Yet she still has the appetite to eat. Ada asked what's an auction and if that's tasty. The girl explained that in short, they are going to be sold off to perverted uncles, and it's a game where they will see who can sell for the most money. Ada asked what's money, and the girl explained that if she has money, she can buy even more buns. Ada was happy about it and stated that she has decided Ada will win this game and sell lots and lots of money so she can eat as many buns as she wants. The girl asked her twin if she actually understood what she just said. He fended off Van's attack and told him that no matter how many times he tries to attack him, the result will be the same. Van realized that from the very start to now, this guy hasn't moved a single step, and he can't even see any A metal on him at all either, and wondered how he exactly neutralized her attack. Van realized that if he keeps meaninglessly attacking like this, he is afraid that he won't have enough stamina to synchronize with her A metal. He mentioned that he doesn't know his opponent's ability, he won't have any odds of success. Mr. asked him if his attacks are only at this level and said he has truly disappointed him. He said that he will show him what a real attack is. He attacked Van and Van was injured. He was on his knees, and he mentioned that he still has time to change his mind as long as he gives him his A medal. Van was furious and replied that it looks like he refused to be convinced. He told him not to blame him for being too ruthless. He used his full power, and Van realized that he had to protect Mother's coffin no matter what. He built his ice block to protect her coffin. The attack was finished, and he saw that Van actually used his own body to block his attack. She asked Van if he had to go this far to protect a corpse. He mentioned that this actually saves him the trouble and said that he will be taking this ice-type bracelet. Van used his power and froze his hand. He dodged the attack, and Van told him it was a pity and just a little more, and he would be completely frozen solid. I wondered how this was possible and said he received such heavy injuries, yet he can still synchronize with the A metal. Van mentioned he knows what his ability is now. Van told him that he mentioned shatter and his attack from earlier came from his bellow. It stated that, as expected of the prince of the city above the clouds, he is quite smart. It said that his ability deals with the spreading of vibrations, and in more simpler terms, it manipulates sound waves. Sound travels at 340 meters per second in the air and inside water. It's even faster, at approximately 1,500 meters per second, and through solid ice. Sound can reach as much as 310 meters per second. He mentioned that, in other words, the more ice he makes, the faster his attacks become, and attribute-wise his ability is no doubt his natural enemy. I said that his ability is his natural enemy. Van responded that even if that's the case, he will still defeat him because he absolutely cannot lose. He wondered about attacking from the ice, and he attacked, and Ace saw that he can actually simultaneously attack from all four directions. Van already reached his limits, and Ace said it was dangerous, and if not for the fact that he is tired. As stated that he really might have been sealed inside that ice, and good thing that he escaped downwards from the ice into the water. I told him that he didn't expect that he could still pull off such a devastating attack while heavily injured. Van was heavily injured and stated that he didn't even have the strength to lift a single finger. I mentioned that leaving him alive will cause no end of trouble, and he will just send him off to meet that ice beauty. Van mentioned that he already did his best, and they used his attack to finish him off, but his attack was dismissed. I asked who there was. Van's father appeared and said that he is still too soft, and I realized it was space distortion. He tried to escape, and I realized it was the ruler of the city above the clouds, Nicholas. He stated that sound cannot pass through a vacuum, and creating a wall of nothingness in his attack path is as easy as flipping his hand over. I stated that he didn't expect he would lead the city above the clouds, and he can't win at his current strength. I tried to escape, but Nicholas told him to not even think about escaping. He used a temporal vortex attack, and Nicholas saw that there was a broken arm and mentioned that this is the first time someone escaped from the palms of his hands. He mentioned it was gutsy, and he actually didn't hesitate to break off his arm. Nicholas looked at Van and said that he still has a ways to go. Van asked him why he didn't come out at that time, when Mother was dying, and he obviously could have. He responded that there is no meaning for the weak to continue existing. Van was furious and asked if he hated him. Nicholas asked him to then get strong enough to defeat him. Nicholas disappeared, and Van said consciousness is beginning to get fuzzy. The kitten greeted ladies and gentlemen and stated that the highly anticipated auction is about to begin. First up is their first item, a pair of the highest quality matching twins, black and white. They introduced themselves and said she is the adorable and lively little white, Dorothy, and the other one was little black Emma. The bidding started, and one mentioned 30 million and other bidded 50 million. A guy rushed in and said that the auction had already started. Neil caught him and took his clothes. Neil said that they were so uncomfortable and wondered if that bastard designed those clothes. The guard checked his identity, but his face didn't match. The guard asked if he is not a member, and Neil replied that he told him that he lost weight. The guard replied that he looked different, and Neil asked from where. He responded everywhere. A bug guy came, and he was so tall. It was Mr. Nosferatu, and Neil asked him if he was the boss around and asked him why he wasn't letting him in. Nosferatu said that he had no manners at all. Neil was knocked over by two girls and Zen, and Fiyu wondered what was going on there. Zen replied that he didn't know, but they should just take advantage of that and go in. Neil was dragged beyond the outskirts of the city, and he was hanging upside down, and he asked her what she was doing. She dropped him in the lava. The kitten showed the next person, and that one was with a starting price of 5 million. Five asked Zen if they are always this wild. Zen was hooting, and he explained that if they don't follow what they are doing, it will be too easy to get found out. The kitten mentioned that the next up was the grand unveiling of today's last item, and that was Ada, a girl from an oasis nation in the south. Five saw that it was Ada and asked Zen what the heck was an oasis nation. She was shocked and said that was not important, and realized that Ada is going to get sold. They started bidding, one for 50 million, another for 60 million, and another one for 65 million. Phoebe asked what they should do as Ada was going to be sold. A guy bid for 80 million and Phoebe said that guy is gross. Phoebe yelled out 1 billion and stated that not wanting him to get her made her involuntarily yell out. The kitten asked if there was anyone offering more than 1 billion. She asked if there were any more offers for such an adorable girl. Zem told her that if they find out that she doesn't have money, they will throw her into the lava area. Phoebe stated that she didn't want to die. Zen responded that he doesn't have money either. A person bidded for 1.2 billion and Phoebe said he was her savior. She looked at him and said that this one is even more gross than the one before, and Zen stated that at least she preserved her life. The kitten sold her for 1.2 billion. It was backstage and Ada stated that she sold 1.2 billion and asked where the buns were. Dorothy told her that they are too busy stealing everything from those stupid perverts to have time to stay with her. She said that they should go a little black and Ada found it so cool. Dorothy mentioned that hiding his safe behind a fake painting sure is tasteless. Dorothy mentioned that the girl is seriously an idiot and Ada agreed with her. Dorothy asked why she was here and wondered how she escaped from the cage. Ada said that they should play together. Dorothy agreed and introduced herself and asked Ada to treat her well. Ada tried to shake her hand, but she hit her with a baseball bat. She went through the walls and Dorothy asked Ada how they can have that much free time to play with her. They went to the other person's locked door and Dorothy said that the girl shouldn't be able to chase them over there. Ada asked who she was talking about. Ada responded that it's her turn to hit and they started running. It was the heart of the underground city, Nosferatu residence. A butler welcomed the young miss and master and stated that the Lord was already there. Dorothy hit him and told him to get out of the way and asked him to not block them. She further mentioned that they made too many detours trying to shake off that girl and realized they are definitely late this time. They reached their father and he looked at his clock and stated that they were late by a full 3 minutes. He hugged them and said if they knew how worried he was in those 3 minutes. They knew it and he looked forward and mentioned that they even brought a friend home. Ada swung her bat and hit their father. They saw that their father was bleeding and realized they were in for it and should run. Dorothy stated that they are leaving first and told Ada to take care. They ran back and jumped out of the window. Zen asked Foog if she saw her friend follow two Lolas here. There was a huge light and Zen wondered what the hell this was. There was a huge blast and it was Nosferatu and his mistress. Ada roared and Phoebe saw her. She told Nosferatu that he couldn't catch her and his hair started floating in the air. They said it's a woman. All of them attacked him and Zen was hurt. They attacked Phoebe and Zen. Neil came back and attacked Nosferatu and told him to give him the woman who burned him to death. The white hole of luminance torrential rain attack was used by Dorothy. Dorothy stated that every time he bleeds, he will steal women and only when they splash a majority of underground river would he finally calm down. Neil and Nosferatu looked at each other and asked why he was here. A girl gave him his coat and Zen realized it was snow. He was happy that he finally found her. She hid behind him and Zen asked her if she didn't remember him. He stated that he is her brother Zen. Neil wondered what was going on and these girls are all expressionless and Phoebe mentioned that they are all exceptionally strong. She asked why he came out from the ground and he replied that's a long story. Dorothy jumped and told them to not waste their breath and those who have drunk father's blood will no longer have their previous ego. She told them that father has the ability to control women through blood. She explained that any girl who receives father's blood baptism will become his eternal servant. Neil responded that this kind of ability is kind of perverse and he kind of wants it though. Phoebe mentioned that as expected, he is an A-metal user. Zen said that it's been 3 years since Snow disappeared that day and he passed every day living in remorse. This time he won't let her leave his side. Nosferatu stated that it was interesting. Dorothy mentioned that since things have reached this stage, it's already too late for them to think about running away because they know too much. Phoebe responded that she is the one who told them about themselves. Neil told him Fabi used too much power earlier and he was completely wiped out. Phoebe said that she can't fight so everything was on him, and when she heard his statement she was shocked. His mistress attacked her and she used her A-metal to protect themselves. Dorothy was surprised as she was an A-metal user and Zen asked what it was and Phoebe responded she will explain later. Phoebe mentioned that she can't hold on much longer and asked Neil to think of a plan. He said that he can't absorb energy from flames and suddenly from the hole that he made in the ground lava came out. They said to be careful of the lava. She saw that these nades seemed to be afraid of firelight. Phoebe asked Neil if he could and he realized it's not only flame. He stated that he can absorb anything as long as it's hot. As Neil was walking towards them, they were afraid. Phoebe said that her guess was right. They are afraid of firelight. Neil clenched his fist and mentioned that he should let him roast the ringleader into a roasted mountain pig. He used his Phoenix Scorcher attack. Emma came to protect his father and used her black hole of darkness, devouring the heavens to absorb Neil's attack. Dorothy used her power and said to have a taste of his own ultimate move. She used White Hole of Luminance Phoenix Scorcher attack. He stopped the attack and Phoebe noticed that Black completely absorbs Neil's attack, and then White restores what Black absorbed to its original state. She said that this kind of defense and offense combination can be said to be perfect. She wondered what kind of A-metal ability they actually have. She tried to stop Neil, and Neil thought that the power from his attack earlier was not enough, and he will use his full power this time. Phoebe told him that he will only be wasting energy if he doesn't confirm what kind of ability his opponent has. He asked how he knows if he doesn't try out, and besides they have a huge energy supply behind us. Zen called Neil and apologized to him and asked if the huge energy supply he was referring to can't be this. Neil realized that it stopped erupting. Dorothy told him not to waste his energy and said that she will be the same no matter how many times he attacks. She explained that Little Black's black hole can devour anything it comes in contact with, and her white hole is the exact opposite, and she can release anything Little Black engulfs. Nosferatu stated that Little White's bad habit has resurfaced again, and Emma mentioned that was the habit of explaining everything. Phoebe looked at her and told them that she actually told them their abilities. Zen stated why he feels like she is telling them on purpose. Dorothy responded that in any case, she won't let them leave this place because they know too much. Phoebe mentioned that since they know the opponent's abilities, then they should be able to think a way to counter it. There was complete silence, and she said she couldn't think of anything. Neil said that he might as well attack with full strength. Neil mentioned that if she doesn't believe that there's a chance of winning, then there won't be a chance of winning, and if they don't try it out, they will never know what will happen. Besides, even if it were to come back, he can still block all of it. Mr. D looked at them, and he realized that they decided to attack like a blind housefly and said it was inelegant. He used his power and made a butterfly and said he should help him a bit. Ada came behind him and said help him a bit. Mr. D asked her to be silent, and he wondered when she appeared before him, and he didn't sense her at all. Neil used his power and attacked her, but the attack didn't work again, but the butterfly passed through it, and Phoebe saw that. It hit Dorothy, but Phoebe saw that she instantly became expressionless again. Neil realized his attack got absorbed again. Dorothy responded that no matter how many times he tries it, the results will all be the same, and Phoebe doesn't believe that. She whispered in Neil's ears, and he was shocked. Neil asked her if she was kidding. Phoebe asked her to trust her, and Neil mentioned that he will bet his life on this. Dorothy smiled and said it seems like they don't understand their situation. She told them that there is no answer to the combination of their abilities. Neil shouted how he would know if he didn't try it. She used Black Hole of Darkness, but was surprised as he attacked him straight forward. Neil dispelled his A-metal and punched her as hard as he could. Dorothy wondered how this was possible, and Phoebe said it was as expected. She mentioned that Black's black hole can absorb a substance into an unknown space, and her white hole is its exact opposite. It can liberate substance out of the space. Phoebe mentioned that if she is not wrong, living organisms are not allowed to exist within that space. When that butterfly passed through the black hole, she suddenly thought that perhaps Black's black hole cannot absorb bodies of living organisms, even though she was only 30% sure of this, but she still decided to get Neil to try it. Phoebe mentioned that now that Black has already been defeated, her ability has become useless. She was stabbed in the back and she saw it was her father. She asked him why. Neil was angry as it was his own daughter. He responded that he is not their real father, and he was the one who killed their biological parents back then. Nosferatu told her that the reason why he brought her up and gave her A-metals is so that he can use her. Use their special abilities so he can accumulate wealth, to build this underground city of eternal night. Phoebe was shocked to hear that he was the one who founded this city. Zen replied that to his knowledge, this city has several hundred years of history. Nosferatu smiled and said several hundred years, and told them that might be a long time for them, but to him, that is merely a short instant. As long as he continuously absorbs blood from young girls, he will stay young forever. Nosferatu attacked Little Black, and she used her black hole to slow his attack. He was absorbing the blood from all the maids. Emma said that he really didn't know, and they were surprised that Little Black actually spoke. Little Black mentioned that his weak spot is the fact that he can only suck female blood. They all were surprised as Little Black is male. Phoebe mentioned that he didn't talk because it would be easy to tell that he is a guy with his voice. Little Black mentioned that in fact he knew for a long time ago that he is not their real father. He mentioned that aside from the butler and Little White, no one knew that he was male. He asked how there can be a father in this world who doesn't know his own child's gender. He mentioned that he will escape with Little White from his evil clutches today. He told her not to be naive and mentioned that he has already taken 50% of Little White's blood. She won't be able to leave here alive. He cut her arm and mentioned that he will give her his blood, and she started drinking it. Nosferatu started laughing and mentioned if she wanted to escape by himself, he still might have had a chance. He attacked her and told him to die here with her. Neil mentioned that he can't look on any longer. He used a heart-piercing barrage attack and said he was overestimating himself. Neil used his flame barrier and burnt his hair. Phoebe saw the attack and thought to have fused someone else's style with his own this fast. As someone who has just learned how to use metals, Neil's improvement speed is astonishing. Nosferatu was angry as Neil burned his hair and said he actually did this to his beautiful hair, and for this, he will have to pay a greater price. He took his hair out of the maid's and said that he is going to return to his strongest state and tear him to pieces. He was in his original form. Neil asked why his clothes had changed, and it's too fake. Nosferatu replied who cares, and told them that he was at his strongest 500 years ago, and those who have seen this appearance are all down in hell. He used a blade of eternal night attack, but Neil protected Little Black from it. Nosferatu said it was interesting, and Phoebe stated that even though Neil's shooting strong words out of his mouth, he should already be at his limit. Formless flames are simply unable to block the opponent's attack. She realized he is too reckless. Neil realized that before Little White fully recovers, he can't move a single step back. He has to withstand his attack no matter what. Nosferatu looked at Neil and said to have reached such a state just to save an enemy, and he has never seen anyone as stupid as him. Neil told him to cut the crap and bring it on. Nosferatu said that since he wanted to die so much, he would help him. He used Wings of Death attack, but Phoebe stopped his attack, and she stated that she must be crazy to wade in this muddy pool of water with him. Her metal defense was cracking, and she said that she can only temporarily slow his attack. Nosferatu mentioned that he originally wanted to play a little more, but he didn't expect that they all would be seeking death. He stated that is good, and he will just kill them all at once. He used his dark corrosion attack, and Neil punched the ground. He instantaneously raised high-temperature flames and blocked the attack. Phoebe saw that he instantly ignited high-temperature flames at the soil to polymerize an earthen shield. He jumped over the stone block and said it's his time to counterattack. He engaged in evolution mode. Neil used the Phoenix Dance of the Nine Heavens, and Nosferatu said it's insignificant tricks. He attacked him, and Neil said he fell for it. Dorothy had recovered, and she used her white hole and realized that the last attack from earlier that Little Black had absorbed, and she used white hole of Luminance Phoenix Scorcher. They attacked him, and he turned into a bat and ran away. Nosferatu stated that he actually got beaten back to his true form by a bunch of kids, and he will definitely come back, but an owl will attack him. Mr. D stated that another one was added to his collection. The owl came back to Mr. D, and there was a rumble. Phoebe wondered if it was an earthquake. Dorothy mentioned that this land was originally an underground river. Little Black held Little White and Little Black to let go, or else she would also fall in. Little Black mentioned that if he is going to die, he would rather die with her. Ada said it was too far and she couldn't reach it. Phoebe mentioned that in her current state, she can't resonate with Wendy. Little Black mentioned that the wound from earlier opened again. Dorothy mentioned that being able to be born in this world with her was truly a blessing. Little Black asked her to stop the nonsense, and Dorothy told him that he will always love him. He removes his metal, and she drowns in the water. Phoebe tried to save Little Black and told her to not let Dorothy die in vain. Mr. D said that no matter how he arranged it, he couldn't make it perfect, and it was not beautiful at all. Zen was unhappy and said beautiful it was his sister, and told Mr. D to not play with other people's bodies. Mr. D stated that then he will use his body to make it up to him. Zen said he admitted defeat and asked Mr. D if he brought his clothes. Mr. D agreed, and Zen changed his clothes. Mr. D looked at him and said that his cosplaying ability is a feast for the eyes. Zen replied that it's this abnormal swallowing personality. Dr. G has instructed all of the Dark Wings to assemble at the North Pole in 1 month. Mr. D brought out his pigeons and asked them to go. His pigeons reached different people. It was above the clouds. A girl came to Lord Nicholas, and he realized it was Coral. He stated that the insects beneath the clouds are moving, and she asked if they need to go down here to dispose of them. He replied no need, and she only needed to concentrate on getting the K-bomb back. As for insect extermination, just leave it to the experts. Van was using his powers, and he was called by his mother. She told him not to train anymore, eat something first. Van mentioned that the royal father said that if he hasn't finished freezing these 100 pillars, he can't eat. His mother said he is still growing and that he cannot eat. Nicholas came and slapped his mother. Nicholas asked how many times he has to say it so she understands, and no one is to disturb Van when he is training. His mother said that he is only a child and that he cannot eat. She asked how about waiting until he is a bit older. Nicholas asked her when it was her turn to tell him what to do. Van tried to stop his father from bullying Mother, and he asked what kind of expression that was. He grabbed his neck and told Van that only the strong can make decisions in this world. Van woke up and he was covered in wounds. A girl came and realized he was up. He made a sword of his ice. Van asked her what this place was and why he was here. He apologized to her earlier. The girl told her it was no problem and told him that he was even scarier when he was injured all over on the mountain road. She pointed at Chippy and told him that if that little guy didn't cry for help, he might have probably died from blood loss on the road. Van was hungry and the girl laughed. She mentioned that he has been unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights. He must be starving to death. She opened the gate and said there is porridge in the kitchen. She will go get him a bowl. She realized that he can't wear his clothes anymore, and if he doesn't mind the clothes in the basket, he can wear those. The girl's heart was beating fast. Zen asked Mr. D that he even used the underground river and asked him why he can't be a bit more low-key. Mr. D replied that he seriously has no taste. He asked how beautiful a scene a red lotus with clear water is. Zen replied that his creator ability sure is convenient, but he can't say if it's beautiful or not. Mr. D responded that he is not that nice, and Zen replied that he was not even complimenting him. Mird stated that every time he swallows a personality he will get an extra life, and he's the cockroach that won't die. However, to have the newest swallowed personality be dominant for 3 days, the side effect is still dangerous. Zen told him to leave the compliments later, and it seems like they have guests. Mird stated that it looks like their old friend Nicholas was thinking about them again as there was spatial distortion. There were a group of people and Mr. D stated that it is seriously a group of people with no sense of beauty. Minard asked Zen if he needed help and he denied. He told him that it's only a few pieces of trash. Zen asked them to attack together as he was in a hurry. One of the guys from the group mentioned that his dark wave wall can block every A-metal attack. He mentioned that they will let him have a taste of their Hell Task Force's power.